Man originally lived as a nomadic hunter-gatherer. Then, after traveling around, some men made permanent settlements in uniquely rich areas. In these areas, they became advanced hunter-gatherers and learned how to store what they had gathered. In the Fertile Crescent, the original settlements weren't actually agricultural, but just really good hunter-gatherers, so good that they stored their surplus. Grain stored particularly well, and this attracted mice. It was found that cats caught mice well, and thus the cat was domesticated for this purpose. Dogs were domesticated for hunting, and all this was before farming as we know it occurred. It's not hard to imagine how gathering grains could eventually lead to planting and harvesting grains. Following this, you had the domestication of farm animals, sheep, wild boars, pigs, bees, etc., and metallurgy, which eventually led to mining when the surface ores ran out. Settled life and surplus food led to specialization of labor, which led to trade. And then trade led to the necessity of writing. All this occurred without what one would consider a state.
Since 1993, Ian Hodder has led the excavations on the Çatalhöyük site. Oddly enough, his research found no indication of a social hierarchy. No palace, no single building more important than the others.
All the houses were very, very similar at Çatalhöyük because this was an egalitarian society. This was not a society where there was strong differences in status and wealth. And so we do not find, chiefly residences or palaces or anything like that. And this is quite common in societies of this type, ethnographically, that you tend to find there is a very strong taboo against certain people getting a lot of status that is more. It
pains me to see these historians and anthropologists pussyfooting around their own great discovery, that is, the state was not necessary for civilization, and that civilization predates the state. Perhaps this is because they are funded by the state and have to deal with hardcore statist academics, but I don't, and so I will say it for them. The initial rise of civilization occurred in anarchy. What's more is that the obscene acquisition of wealth was frowned upon and regulated as people regulate what they consider obscene behavior. A state is a person or persons whom it is agreed that they can acquire property in a manner different than everyone else. And in this way, while you or I must exchange our labor for something of value, or seize it through force, an agent of the state can just tax it. Technically, this can be fuzzy, as one could claim nepotism is statism, but this fuzziness in what is a state is rather academic. While most agree to be extorted in this matter, it must be compelled. The state cannot be voluntary, for if it is voluntary, then certain people will just decide not to pay for it, and will live free and prosperous lives, proving that the state is not necessary. And groups will come together, provide all these so-called public goods it was originally thought only a state could provide, and that will be it for the state. And so force must be used to prevent any cracks in the dam, lest they expand and break out into a beautiful river of freedom.
The archaeologists found two temples among the rubble at Arslantepe. On the walls of the corridors separating the temples and the warehouses, paintings of deities show that even economic activity was influenced by religious beliefs. For here, as in all the cities of that era, the elite was quick to use religion to justify itself.
Because at that time, religious and ideological legitimization of the power was the main force, the main basis of this power. They did not have yet military forces for internal purposes. They probably did not have a real legal system to control the behavior of the population. So the control was mainly exercised through ideology.
5,000 years ago, the Egyptian civilization would model itself on Arslantepe. Flourishing agriculture, immense temples and palaces, few cities. Despite these differences, whether at Arslantepe, in Egypt, or in Uruk, one constant remained: the importance of religion to ensure social control. The kings would not hesitate to become gods to legitimize their power.
The state originally came about through organized religion and centered around the building of temples, fitting that the origin of the state would be to facilitate colossal waste. Religion short-circuits the rational cost-benefit analysis of individuals, causing everyone to be stupid together. In a free market, stupid actions are punished rather quickly, but if everyone is being stupid together, as with the state, then really stupid things can happen. War is a great example of the state in action. In a free market, if there's a conflict between two large companies, those large companies may go to war. They would have to pay their own way, hire mercenaries, and if they tried to force individuals not party to the conflict to fight for them, they would face the corresponding publicity and would have to fight them to get them to fight in their war. With the state, the king can just draft men to fight for him. This is coerced, of course, but unlike the company, the state is viewed as legitimate by most, and so resistance is far less than that of a private war. This allows states to engage in warfare on a far grander scale than private companies. It's not a matter of size that makes the state able to wage such wars. It's a matter of belief, and that belief was originally achieved through religion, and that is the only way people who had always lived as free men would submit to the state. That is, to believe that they are deities themselves or that they channel the will of the deities. But today, the state is maintained by force on the margins and inertia and fear from the masses. If the state made pencils, one might reasonably ask, how would pencils exist on a free market? How would the poor have access to pencils? And because no single man knows how to make a pencil, not even a single man at a pencil factory, and no anarchist could say with apodictic certainty how free market pencils could exist, or how the poor could have access to pencils, or how those with pencils wouldn't exploit those without pencils, lazy minds fall back onto the state. Of course, the state is a complete non-answer. The state is arbitrary, and arbitrary is chaos. It is the free market that is governed.
Look at this lead pencil. There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen. What brought them together and induced them to cooperate to make this pencil? The impersonal operation of prices that brought them together and got them to cooperate to make this pencil so that you could have it for a trifling sum. There was no commissar sending out orders from some central office. That is why the operation of the free market is so essential, not only to promote productive efficiency, but even more to foster harmony and peace among the peoples of the world.
If you are interested in exploring the idea of a stateless society further, I have other videos going into various topics such as roads, currency, healthcare, examples of stateless societies in history. I would also recommend the sites in the video description and in my channel description. Thank you so much for your time.